Welcome back to Grief Inspired. My name is Catherine McNulty, and I am so excited to have a guest with me today. And I want to introduce all of you to Siobhan Brittain, who is a psychic medium from the Sunshine Coast of Australia. I love to explore all the different avenues that we have available to us to try to support ourselves through the grief journey. And so this may be one that you're interested in. This may be one you're curious about. This may be one that you're saying, no, I don't think so. But I want to encourage you to listen and be open to what you hear and just look within. The advice that I give to every one of my clients is that the answers that you're looking for oftentimes are within you. So I want to just encourage you to look within. And if this resonates with you, at the end of this, we are going to make sure that you have the ability to reach out to her, to work with her, to contact her. So I'm super excited. So Siobhan, welcome. I'm so glad that you're here.
Thank you so much. It's a great pleasure to be here with you today or tonight.
Today, exactly. So, and I love this. So for all of you who are watching, I want you to know that Siobhan and I run in similar circles, which is why I've invited her to be here with all of you. She is full of character and integrity, and you are going to love her. Her mission is to strengthen individuals in community and empower them to develop themselves. And I think that that's something that really resonates with me because, going through the grief process is about developing yourself, overcoming the grief that you're experiencing. Healing from grief has a lot to do with getting to know who we are and what's important to us. So I'm so excited that you're here with us. So let's start by, can you tell us, what is a psychic medium? What do you do? How do you define it? Tell us about yourself.
Sure, no worries. So I'll go in first. A psychic medium basically is a medium. So I'll break it down into two portions. So the medium part of it is someone that can connect with spirits or passed over loved ones, people in the spirit world that have passed on. And medium is generally somebody that can connect with someone like yourself with passed over loved ones for you, but also passed over loved ones in that realm or in that space that may or may not be connected with people. It's mainly people that have passed over. The psychic part is basically, so the meaning of psychic is connecting with your spirit, your aura, your presence, or the person that you're reading in, and giving them a little bit of a snapshot about what's actually going on right now and what's kind of sort of come in the future and what can sort of develop. I always say when I do a reading for people that this is based on the here and now. So obviously everybody has free will to take it or leave it. And some things may or may not resonate with the person that's being provided the information. I do actually personally call on spirits or guides in the spirit world to be able to help facilitate that energy and that connection with spirit. So I do read psychically people's energy, but I also get information from my guides as well.
Excellent.
So I sort of use the three different sources, I guess.
Right. And how did this all happen for you? Is this something that you just, how did it unfold?
Okay, so way back when I was little, and I was only just thinking about this earlier, so I have I have had these abilities from when I was little. So I can remember memories of when I was like 3, 4 and 5, seeing people that looked different, like actually physical people looking different than the normal people in my life. And I sort of would look at them and sort of, why can't people see them kind of thing? And I didn't realize that what I could see was not available for everybody to see, because I suppose they were closed off or chose to shut that down. Because at the end of the day, everybody has these abilities to be able to connect with spirit and God and the universe, however you want to term it. So we all have that ability, but I just was obviously very open as a young girl, and I remember like laying in bed quite often at night, and that's sort of when your defenses are down, I suppose, and your barriers are not up. So it sort of helps with the connection of spirit. And I would have spirits come visit me in the middle of the night and tell me things and give me messages and tell me that they were lost and things like that. So I would tell my parents and they would go, oh no, you know, that doesn't happen, kind of thing, because it would obviously worry them and startle them that there was someone in my bedroom. But so like I just sort of kind of kept it to myself for many, many years. And then when I was, I think it was like 22 or something like that, I actually had a bit of a wake-up call. So spirit came back into my life, but I always kept those abilities. So I always, you know, chatted with friends and would tell them information about what was going on in their life. And they'd be like, how do you know that? And I'm like, oh, I just know these things. But I hadn't really put a label on it, I suppose. And then when I was about 22, I had a big wake-up call. I had spirit kind of show themselves physically to me again. And it was like, whoa, what just happened there, kind of thing. So I called in my grandfather and just said, look, please protect me. I didn't know what I was doing at the time, but, you know, protect me, kind of thing. And then it just sort of ignited everything once again. And I opened myself up and went searching for answers for me, because I thought I was going a little bit crazy, I guess.
I would think so.
Yeah. So sort of started on that pathway of self-development and spiritual development and working with God, because I was brought up Catholic. So I was very much faith-based upbringing and loved God and loved Jesus, and I should say love, not loved. And you know, like very, very deeply faith orientated. And I knew that whatever was happening with me was a gift from God, and the ability to be able to do what I could do. So I just sort of developed it and went to lots of different coaches and mentors and development circles and mediums and psychics in Australia. Like, so we would sit in circle. I've also sat internationally in what I call circles. So that's like a development circle. So basically like a closed group to help hone my skills, focus my abilities, learn more techniques, learn how to communicate with people, both in the spirit world and also on earth, as in being able to decipher the information that's coming through. Because sometimes I get information that has no relevance or sense to me, but once I tell someone, they're like, oh, that makes perfect sense. So I think that, did I answer the question?
Yes, absolutely. Well, yeah, and it's interesting because it sounds like you went into training, right, to learn, right? So like for me personally, when I lost my son, right, big life event, of course, I was like, well, what do? I went into training and said, I need to figure this thing out. And so it sounds like, you know, you had the same experience with that. And I love one of the things you had said to me when we talked previously. You said, I see death differently because I know it isn't an end. Tell me about that, because I think that's something that I think for those of us who have lost the people that we love, there's always concern, right? Are they okay? Where are they? We have questions for them. A lot of times we feel really guilty. Maybe we said something that we shouldn't have said. Maybe we didn't say the things that we wanted to say. And the thought of having the opportunity to potentially connect in whatever way it is something that I think, whether we inherently believe it or not, is something that I think we would all kind of long for. But you saying I see death differently because it isn't an end. Tell me about that.
So like I do see death very differently to most people, because I can see the other side, if you understand what I mean. So don't get me wrong, it's still devastating when we lose someone that's in our life, you know, like a mother, father, son, daughter, auntie, uncle, friend. It's all very real, and it's still on a human level. It's still very painful and sad. I guess for me, with death, it's like a doorway. So it's like someone in real life, it's like someone moves state, you know, or moves suburbs, or moves to another country. So you don't see them, but you know that they're still there. So for me, that's kind of like what death is, because I do believe in the evolution of the human soul. So I do believe that we do have the ability to be able to reconnect with people that are passed over loved ones. And quite often when I talk to people and give them a reading and their loved one comes through, the biggest question I get asked is, are they okay? And they all are okay, because they go through what's called a transition period. So once we leave our earthly body, we actually go through a transition period, and it's very different for different people depending on their belief system. So you know, people that are very religious go through a different transition process to people that don't believe in the afterlife, or, you know, the spirit realm. It's all very different. So whatever you believe will happen, and this is what I believe anyway. So I know a lot of people have different views, but I believe that they will go through that transition period, and then will end up in the collective consciousness. So the energy of the universe, I suppose, is probably a good way to put it. So when people pass over, they kind of they go through that transition process, but because we here on earth grieve the loss of the loved one, because they've kind of passed and moved forward, whereas we here on earth find it very, very difficult to grieve. And it depends on the circumstances too behind the passing of the loved one, because sometimes it can be quite a traumatic passing, sometimes it can be quite a peaceful passing, sometimes it is it happens way too quickly, and it sort of is over and done with in the blink of an eye. And quite often people that come to me that want that closure, because, you know, they've said a bad word to their loved one, or they haven't connected with their loved one for a little while, or you know, the circumstances behind the last time that they met or last time they saw each other were probably not ideal. So they feel a tremendous amount of guilt and sadness, because they didn't get to resolve what they wanted to resolve. And I find we as humans are very, very good at beating ourselves up, I guess, and to relive the past, and you know, like, I should have done this, I should have said that kind of thing. So to be able to have that ability to be able to connect the two worlds and pass on messages from a loved one is just such a blessing. And I'm just so humbled to be able to provide people with that closure and the answers to the questions that they have.
Yeah, we spend a lot of time on this channel talking about that guilt, and that how the guilt turns into shame, and it kind of turns inward. We turn it against ourselves. And, you know, I remember just recently I had somebody commenting on one of my YouTube videos, and he was, you know, he was like, I just keep like praying and asking for her forgiveness. And he keeps asking me, you know, would she forgive you, or would she forgive me? You know, and he just continue, you know, and this was 5 years he had been beating himself up over something that you know, it's amazing how we assume we have more control, I think, over things that can happen than we believe. And he just, you know, he was just beating himself up. And so it was just I love to be able to give people the opportunity to, you know, to like you said, the closure, and to be able to say, like, what would my love, you know, if I could hear my loved one. I mean, I often tell people, you know, before we had met, I'm like, well, just be quiet and listen, and you know what they would say to you, right? Like, listen to it. But this is an opportunity to actually get that chance again, which I think is fantastic.
It is such a blessing to be able to help people with that transition and with that, like, as you said, the guilt and the shame, because if that person hadn't passed over, then they could have resolved whatever it was that they're feeling, that hurt, shame, guilt. And then because they're on that cycle of, you know, trying to process their feelings and process what's going on for them, and also the loss of a loved one. There's so many emotions at that time anyway, that sometimes we can't all execute what we need to execute and try and compartmentalize everything going on with us at the time.
Yeah. So you had also mentioned to me that you believe that we all have a death date, which I thought was like, I was like, ooh, okay, wait a minute. Tell me more about that, because, that's like something that I haven't thought about. I hadn't really explored. You did a reading with me, and I had remembered thinking, like, because somebody had said, I had told them I was talking to you, and somebody said, well, are you going to ask her, to talk to Jackson and to hear from him? And I had said, well, like, I don't feel like there's a lot that's incomplete, right? He was an infant. He was only with me for 6 weeks. I never had feelings that were incomplete. And yet still, when we did a reading, right, you connected and you shared with me some of the things that, that he had to tell me. And I think that it was powerful and unexpected and beautiful and comforting and right on point. You had told me that, like, he was sharing, like, no, I was only supposed to be here for a short period of time, is what you were sharing. And to me now, this far out from his passing, it's been more than 12 years, and all of the grief work that I do now, and my ability to help people through their grief, like we do, it makes sense, right? That this is, he served that purpose for me, and he wasn't supposed to be here. He had a short time. His death date was far sooner. And so I believe that. But tell me more about the death date.
So it's hard to talk about a death date, I suppose, because at the end of the day, we're all going to pass away eventually. So whether it's at 6 weeks, whether it's at 90 years old, whether it's at 55, working or whatever it is, I do believe that we do actually, as a soul, so completely on a soul level with no emotion attached to it, we have a death date. Basically, like the day that we are going to pass, or the rough time. So it can be within the space of a couple of weeks, kind of thing, because we have all of these things that we are chosen to do here on earth, and this is on a purely soul level, not on a human level, because really, who would want to actually choose to, have an experience like you that has lost a baby at 6 weeks? So, or the other end of the scale, someone that spent a lifetime with their partner, who would choose to lose that partner, in the last 10 years of their life as well. But I feel that we always have that death date, and on a soul level, we actually know when it is. So, there's lots of people out there that that pass early or relatively early, and I mean, like, under 40, under 50 kind of thing, and they knew that they were here for a short amount of time. The amount of people that I speak to that say, oh, the person that I'm reading for, they say, I want to connect with such and such. They knew that they were going to pass early, kind of thing. So we do actually know, and we do choose that death date, I believe. And it's lovely, but it's kind of scary at the same time, in so much as, who would want to choose to leave their loved ones unresolved and have maybe an argument or have big plans. I know that there are people out there that have passed, a couple of days before their wedding date, and things like that. Who would actually choose that?
Right.
But it's on a soul level, and obviously no emotion, on a soul level, that's what we sign our contract for. So we decide that, we're going to meet this person, we're going to do this, and this is going to happen, and I'm going to pass on this date, and you're going to have to grieve for the loss of me, and things like that. So it can be comforting to know those kind of facts and information, so that it's not the person that's grieving still has a little bit of closure around that if they choose to accept it, because at the end of the day, we all have different beliefs and we all have different upbringing and we all have different views on what I do, and there are some people out there that kind of don't value what I can provide people.
Yeah, and I think, and I agree with you. I think that knowing that there is this death date, I find it is a little bit comforting, because again, I think we want to believe we just have so much more control than we do, right? I talk to folks who, they look back on the situation surrounding the death, right? And, we're coming out of COVID, I think, I hope, I pray, right? And there were people who would say, like, only if I had taken them to the hospital, maybe the outcome would have been different. Or on the same day, I'd have the same conversation with somebody who said, I shouldn't have taken them to the hospital because the outcome might have been different. So we believe that we have so much more control over our loved one's death, I guess, than maybe we should. And so I find this, I find it a little bit comforting to know that we're here for a purpose, and however long that is, right, is probably somewhat irrelevant, but obviously not to the people who would be grieving, right?
Like for the people that, as you just mentioned, the person that takes their loved one to the hospital sooner, or the person that says, I shouldn't have taken them. I suppose for them, they're internalizing their what if kind of things. Do you know what I mean? Like, what if I did this differently, or what if I did this differently? And they play out a different outcome in their mind so that the outcome's different, basically, that they don't lose that loved one. And I guess that's normal. That is completely normal for people to go or to think, if I'd only done it differently, the outcome would have been different, and this person would still be in my life. And it's like, it's not the same by any stretch of the imagination, but when you separate from somebody, the only difference when you separate for somebody to when somebody actually passes is that person's still here on earth. And so it is kind of like a separation when somebody passes away. So but quite often a separation in life has different feelings to losing a loved one, or the grief that people feel once their loved one has passed.
Yes, absolutely. So tell me more about the people that you work with typically, or that you're looking to work with. I guess that's the other thing too.
So I find that people are guided to me and my energy. So because obviously I feel that you need to be comfortable and resonate with somebody that you're going to work with. And so I just put it out there to God and spirit that I get to work with amazing people who need my kind of support, because as you said, like, I've done 20 years of spiritual development, and I've also done about probably 20 years of personal development as well. And so I do a lot of personal, professional and spiritual development to be able to, like, really get to the nuts and bolts of situations and work out. And I did it basically for me, because I needed to work out what was going on with me first and foremost, to then be able to help people. And I'm really blessed to have had lots of great and not so great experiences in life, to be able to have like a toolbox, to dig into when I'm talking to people, when I'm helping people. So I get a wide variety of people who just want to come to me for a little bit of advice, working out, where they're kind of headed next, and a little bit of direction in their life, right through to people that need a lot of direction in their life, like they're really at a crossroads and working out, if I go this path, what will happen? If I go this path, what will happen? So, I'm blessed to be able to give them guidance on both. So, let people know that if you continue down this path, this is likely to happen. Or if you go down this path, that's likely to happen. And at the end of the day, we all have free will. So, take it or leave it.
Right. You can choose. I know I had the experience, and a lot of people who watch my channel, same sort of experience, in that, the death is so severe, right? The loss is so strong that you find yourself at a crossroads. And, for me personally, I had that experience, right? I had lost my son and I came back to my life. And I was like, none of this matters anymore. Like, I've literally been chasing all of the wrong things. And I had to, like, from the ground up, like, figure out like who I was, what I liked, what were the things that were important to me, who I wanted to have around me, like what I wanted to do. Did I even like my career that I had invested all of this education and everything in? And, none of that seemed very trivial to me after my loss. And I work with a lot of spouses who have lost their spouse, and they're like, I don't know who I am as a person without my partner. And so it's kind of like the self-exploration of, how do I find me? Like, who am I given the experience that I have and the 25 plus years of marriage that I've had with this person who's, I often say it's like losing an appendage, right? Like, this is all I know. And I have to show up in the world now to keep going as a completely different person. And I don't know who that person is. Right. So I mean, I think this would be a fantastic opportunity for some of them to, to be able to ask you and say, and have you help them, explore that. Cause I try to do that. And I said, well, let's just try different things and see what resonates with you and what you like. But to have your guidance seems like such a gift, right? Like, so much more, like, to where do I start? And can you point me in the, it's almost like point me in the right direction, right? Like, which way do I go?
Definitely, because people's when they lose a loved one, and especially for a spouse that has been together for any length of time, you're grieving for more than just your spouse. You're grieving for your quality of life, your sense of purpose. People quite often value being, the husband and wife of somebody really highly. So then everything sort of comes crashing down for them, as you would know, supporting people in this vulnerable situation. They have, everything about their life has immensely changed, sometimes in the blink of an eye kind of thing. And to be able to help support people through that and give them closure and give them direction and give them comfort. I've had people come to me and they've lost loved ones, a couple of days beforehand, a week beforehand, a couple of weeks beforehand, 5 years, a variety of timeframes from the passing of their loved one. And to be able to help them through that moment and show them that the other person is okay, and give them a message from them. It can be little things like, remember this keepsake, or remember this. I spoke to a lady the other day. She went on a holiday with her granddad, and I said, there's something there, and I keep like doing this, like shaking, and she's like, oh, I don't get it. I said, he bought it on a holiday. It was her grandfather that I had bought through, like, and I'm like doing this, and she's like, it'd be a snow globe, but he didn't buy it on a holiday. And I was like, oh, keep hearing the word holiday kind of thing. And then I said, oh, so he wasn't on a holiday. And she's like, no, he wasn't on a holiday. And then she looked at me, she goes, actually, we were on the holiday together, and he bought it with her and he gave it to her. And I was like, oh, well, that makes so much sense. Like they were on a holiday together, and he bought this snow globe, and it was really important. And that memory for him was really priceless. And obviously it was for her too, but, it's something that she had forgotten to have value in. Because it had been quite a few years since he passed. So to be able to remind her that there's something here that ties him to her right on earth was just really, really beautiful. And obviously I gave her a message to be able to help her move forward with her life, and a couple of little things that'll help her along her way. So that was really lovely.
Oh, I love it. I love it so much. Oh, it's so good. It's so good. I just, like, I can feel it. Oh, the one other thing that I wanted to just point out too is I work with women. So I have a soft spot in my heart for women who experience, obviously, child loss, miscarriage, infant loss, but also infertility, right? I went through a period of infertility, and I'll tell you what, there is not there, like, infertility is its own kind of pain and grief. And, being a mother who, or a parent, right, who's, you don't know, right? You're desperate to have a child and you just don't know, like, is this going to work? Right. And it's usually, it's mental investment, it's physical investment, it's financial investment, right? And just to be able to give people some sense of, like, yes, you're on the right path, right? Like, at what point, I mean, people struggle and they say, like, well, when do you stop? Right? Like, how far do you go? Right. And that's something that I feel really strongly about, because there's, I help people say, well, you got to look within and you got to do what feels right for you. But to have some, knowledge or insight around that would just be, such a blessing for people in that situation.
Yeah, definitely. So I'm not sure if I've actually shared this with you, but I did an IVF, have had an IVF journey myself. And I suppose, like, so disclaimer here, it's this gift that I have is not for personal gain. So I don't actually, the information that I give other people for me personally. I'm going to get snippets, but it's not as clear as what I can provide other people. So, because obviously it's my journey to go through. But so I did IVF for many years, and I have 2 beautiful babies now. But so throughout my IVF journey, it was pretty tumultuous, and it's a big strain on your life and your family and your financial situation and your physical and your mental journey. But I say very blessed, because I was very blessed to be able to help transition 17 souls across to the other side.
Wow.
So I had lots of loss. Yeah.
Wow.
Yes.
Okay.
So I have 2 babies, but both of them were twins. So I lost 2 twins as well.
Wow. Wow. So you get it.
Totally.
Yeah. So you spend a lot of time in loss, talking to people about loss and giving people hope. I love that. So if people did a reading with you, if they chose to work with you, like, for someone, like, what do you say to someone who's never done this, right? Like, because I kind of came to you willingly, because we had, met through our lives, had sort of connected, and I was like, I'm a kind of jump in kind of girl, right? And so, but there's people who, I'll try anything once, right? Because I'm like, devour information as much as I can. But there are people who are like, well, I think I might want to, but might be a little bit hesitant. What can they expect when they work with you?
Okay, so basically, whenever I work with somebody or have the opportunity to talk to somebody about potentially working with them, I always ask for Spirit's guidance of what I need to say, and how can I help support that person? How can I help strengthen that person to get whatever they need from me? So it can be different things that they need from me. Some people reach out and with literally one question that they want to ask. So I give them that answer, and then that's all that they need. Some people work with me on a longer term basis, so come back and see me a couple of times. It just depends on that individual person and what they're going through and what they need and how much closure they need. So I feel that I'm very compassionate and help support people through a situation, and I want to see people thrive and succeed. I don't want to see people being sad and upset and being hard on themselves for whatever situation they've got themselves into. So I try and help that person gain that closure with that loved one, and to be able to, let them know that it's okay, that it wasn't their fault, that the person that's passed over doesn't blame them. There's no ill feelings from the loved one, and basically just sort of help them gain closure, gain direction in their life, work out, joy and happiness. Like, I spoke to a lady, or was talking to a lady the other day, and she is in a really big crossroads at the moment. So I gave her a couple of different scenarios about what's likely to come up. And I just kept saying, like, there's something that you do, like, what do you do that makes you happy? And she's like, she literally had no idea what it is that makes her happy. And I'm like, there is something there that you used to do, like, so I had to push a little, not push, but, like, had to ask her quite a few questions to be able to hone in what it was, because I knew that there was something there that actually made her soul come alive.
Right.
And I said, I'm like, I can do something with my hands, like, it's my hands that I'm doing it with. And I'm like, do you draw? Do you paint? Do you?
Right.
And she's like, I used to, not kind of. And I could see that it wasn't really her thing. And then I just looked at her and I went, oh my God, your necklace is amazing. And she goes, oh my God, I made it myself and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, that's what it is. And then, like, as soon as I said that to her, like, her whole presence changed. It's like she'd found her joy in life again. And so we went down this road of, okay, so this is what you need to do with this part of your life and the business, and making this jewelry for other people. And she's like, and then the whole conversation changed, because it was like she just found her purpose again. And like, the lady that came to me, and she was broken when she first walked in the door. She just was like, completely, I don't know where I'm going, what I'm doing. And then all of a sudden, like, when I mentioned her necklace, it was like, oh my God, like, it's amazing. And this is what I've done. And it was just such a beautiful experience, and so humbling to be able to give her that sense of purpose and direction again.
Well, yeah, and I love that. And I love it. It's like you could see something that she couldn't see in herself. Right.
Yeah.
But it was already there. Right. And maybe she could have, like, navigated to that herself eventually. But it's like, I love the idea of, like, just let's, like, speed this all up. Right. Because I'm all about, like, speed and, let's get this done. Let's get where we're supposed to be going. Right. Get on the path is the way I call it. Right. Get on the path to happiness. So I love that.
Like, there's so much sadness and pain in the world, and losing a loved one is the epitome of sadness and pain. And that loved one that has passed on doesn't want you to be sad and unhappy. They want you to find that sense of purpose. They want you to find love and joy and happiness in your life again. Not necessarily another loved one, if you understand what I mean by love, but love for yourself, love for life again, and that zest that you possessed, and that you had. And like that lady with the necklace, like, she literally came alive again when I mentioned about the necklace. And it was just so humbling and beautiful to see that I can make a difference in someone's life. And she walked out of the room a completely different purpose with a whole new direction, and it was beautiful.
Right. And and I love that. And this is, like, such a great way to sort of end this conversation too, because it's, this is, the one thing I always say, like, the grief that you are experiencing is not about your loved one, right? Your grief is about your life, and how do you keep living and live for them? And that's what they would want, right? And they're, if we believe, whatever it is in terms of anything in the afterlife, if you believe that they exist, right, they're okay, right? Like, we're the ones who are struggling. We're the ones who still need help and guidance and support, and need to know that they, forgive us, or, don't guilt us, and want us to be happy again. And so hearing some of that is comforting, and knowing, and that's, that's what I want for everybody. Is we don't, grief is hard enough, right? We don't have to make it harder on ourselves, and we need to learn how to live again. And I call it a path to happiness, because it's like, we need to find our path to, like, how do we be happy again, given everything that's happened to us? Because I don't think that we are just put on this planet to have something, like, I just could not accept for my own self. I could not accept that, like, I was supposed to lose a child and that was it. I was supposed to be miserable. Right. And somehow, in some weird kind of way, we ended up here, you and me, right, in this conversation, talking to all of you. And it's incredible, and it's miraculous and beautiful. And to me, it's like, it's love, right? It's love. I mean, and that's, I think, I try to start and end all things with love, because you feel grief and you experience grief and pain and sadness because you loved. And because you continue to love, and that love continues to exist beyond the death date, right? And you can carry that love forward. So I'm so glad that you came to talk to us. And so I am going to make sure that how can people get a hold of you if they want to? I can certainly leave things below, but tell us, how can people get a hold of you?
Sure. So I've got a Facebook page, or Facebook Facebook page. So it's Siobhan Brittain Psychic Medium, and so you can touch base with me there. Or I have a website, www.siobhanbrittain.com. So they're the two ways that you can reach out to me. And obviously we can drop the links in below, and if you get a hold of Catherine, she obviously knows where I am to be able to contact as well.
Exactly. So, well, thank you so much for doing this and coming to talk to us and sharing us a little bit more about this, because again, like I said, when we started, it was, I didn't know, and I just wanted to know. And so I'm glad to share it with all of you. So leave me your comments, leave me your feedback. Let me know what all of you think. If you have questions for her, like I said, we will get you to her if you want to work with her or talk to her or ask her questions. So thank you so much. Thank you so much.
I'm very blessed. Thank you.